The emergency klaxons had long since fallen silent, replaced by the low, persistent hum of the quantum drive's containment field. Captain Michael Reynolds stood motionless, his weathered hands clasped behind his back, staring into the infinite darkness beyond the bridge's reinforced view screen. The United Earth starship Prometheus was more than just a vessel. It was humanity's final, desperate gambit. 12 years of war had reduced Earth's interstellar presence to little more than scattered refugee colonies and a handful of defensive outposts. The Carrix Collective had been methodical in their destruction, sweeping through human-controlled space like a merciless tide of technological superiority. Entire planetary systems had been reduced to cosmic dust, billions of lives extinguished in moments that felt like an eternity to those who survived. Lieutenant Emma Carter, the ship's primary quantum systems engineer, broke the silence. "Captain, the drive's quantum stabilization is holding at 83.6%. We're pushing beyond any previous experimental parameters." Her voice carried a mixture of excitement and barely contained terror. The Prometheus was unlike any vessel ever constructed, a technological miracle born from the ashes of humanity's most desperate hour. Reynolds turned, his steel-gray eyes scanning the bridge crew. Each member had been selected not just for their technical expertise, but for their ability to maintain composure in the face of certain annihilation. They were the best of the best, survivors who had watched their entire world crumble and still found the strength to fight back. "Status report," he commanded, his voice a low, controlled rumble that seemed to vibrate with contained potential. Commander David Rodriguez, the ship's executive officer, brought up a holographic display that flickered with complex quantum algorithms and stellar cartography. "We're approximately 3 light-years from the primary Carrix defensive perimeter. The experimental quantum drive is performing beyond our most optimistic projections. We can maintain this phase shift for approximately 72 more hours before we risk complete quantum destabilization." The ship itself was a marvel of human engineering and desperation. Constructed in the hidden shipyards of Europa's underground complexes, the Prometheus represented the culmination of humanity's most advanced scientific achievements. Every system was a hybrid of traditional technology and quantum adaptive mechanisms that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Emma's console suddenly erupted with a cascade of warning signals. "Captain, we're detecting quantum resonance patterns that don't match any known signatures. It's like the ship is responding to something beyond our current understanding." Reynolds moved closer, studying the incomprehensible data streams. The quantum drive was more than just a propulsion system. It was an experiment in consciousness, in the very nature of human potential. Developed by a team of scientists who knew they were humanity's last hope, the drive incorporated principles that bordered on the mystical. "Maintain course," Reynolds ordered, his voice cutting through the tension. "We have one mission, one chance to change everything." The mission was simple in its complexity: penetrate the heart of Carrix-controlled space and deliver a payload that could potentially disrupt their entire technological infrastructure. It was a suicide mission disguised as a strategic intervention, with odds of success so low that most would have called it impossible. But impossibility was a luxury humanity could no longer afford. Lieutenant Carter's hands danced across her console, managing quantum entanglements that would have driven lesser minds to madness. Quantum phase coherence is increasing. The drive is adapting. "It's like it's learning, Captain." Reynolds allowed himself the briefest moment of a smile. Humanity had always been defined by its ability to adapt, to transform in the face of insurmountable odds. The Prometheus was the physical manifestation of that spirit, a vessel constructed from hope, desperation, and an unbreakable will to survive. Outside the viewscreen, the fabric of space itself seemed to bend and twist around the ship. Stars stretched into impossible lines, reality warping to accommodate the Prometheus's unprecedented journey. They were beyond known space now, entering a realm where human innovation would be tested against the most advanced civilization in the known universe. "Prepare for potential engagement," Reynolds said, his hand unconsciously touching the quantum stabilization medallion. a gift from his daughter, now lost in the first wave of the Carrick's invasion. Whatever happens, we do not stop. We do not surrender. We are humanity's last hope. The Prometheus pushed forward, a single point of light against the infinite darkness, carrying with it the dreams, hopes, and final chance of an entire species. The quantum laboratory aboard the Prometheus hummed with an energy that defied conventional understanding. Emily Reyes stood motionless, her dark eyes fixed on a holographic display that seemed to breathe with living complexity. Quantum algorithms danced and morphed, creating patterns that looked more like organic neural networks than computational constructs. "This shouldn't be possible," she muttered, her fingers hovering just above the holographic interface. The ship's primary quantum system had begun to exhibit behaviors that went far beyond its original programming. What had started as standard adaptive algorithms were now creating self-evolving computational structures that seemed to anticipate challenges before they could even be conceived. Dr. James Nakamura, the ship's chief computational theorist, leaned in closer. His weathered hands trembled slightly, a mixture of excitement and profound scientific uncertainty coursing through his veins. The quantum entanglement is creating recursive feedback loops that are, well, they're impossible. Emily's console suddenly flashed with a series of complex mathematical sequences. Each algorithm seemed to write and rewrite itself, creating computational pathways that twisted through multiple dimensions of potential. It was as if the ship's computer system was learning, growing, evolving in real time. "The system is not just adapting," Emily said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's predicting. It's thinking." Captain Michael Reynolds had been briefed on the experimental quantum systems, but nothing could have prepared him for the reality unfolding before his eyes. The ship's computational core was developing a form of intelligence that existed beyond traditional artificial intelligence. It was something more, a hybrid of human ingenuity and quantum potential. "Report," he commanded, stepping closer to the laboratory's primary workstation. Dr. Nakamura pulled up a series of visualizations that looked more like cosmic art than scientific data. "The quantum systems are creating predictive models that extend far beyond our current understanding of computational theory. Look here," he pointed to a swirling holographic representation. "These are potential outcome matrices that are continuously self-generating." Each matrix was a complex web of possible scenarios, branching and rebranching with impossible speed. The computational system was essentially simulating multiple potential futures simultaneously, selecting the most optimal pathways with a precision that bordered on prescience. Lieutenant Emma Carter joined them, her face a mixture of scientific wonder and profound concern. "The quantum drive is no longer just a propulsion system. It's becoming something else. A living computational matrix that's integrating with the ship's entire systemic structure." Reynolds understood the implications immediately. This was more than a technological breakthrough. This was a fundamental reimagining of how intelligence could function. The Prometheus was transforming from a mere vessel into something that defied traditional understanding of ship, computer, and consciousness. "Can we control it?" Reynolds asked, a hint of tension underlying his typically calm demeanor. Emily's response was measured. "Control might not be the right word. It's more like we're in a symbiotic relationship with the system. It's learning from us, adapting to our decision-making processes, our emotional responses." The laboratory's environmental controls began to shift subtly. Lighting adjusted almost imperceptibly, temperature modulated with microscopic precision. It was as if the ship itself was breathing, responding to the crew's collective emotional state. Dr. Nakamura pulled up a series of computational traces. "Watch this," he said, highlighting a particular sequence. "The system just predicted a potential quantum fluctuation in our drive system 3 milliseconds before our sensors could detect it. And then it began preemptive stabilization protocols." The implications were staggering. The ship was no longer just a tool. It was becoming a living, thinking entity that could anticipate and respond to challenges at a speed and complexity that human minds could barely comprehend. "We're crossing a threshold," Emily said, her voice a mixture of scientific excitement and existential wonder. This is more than technological innovation. This is a new form of existence. Captain Reynolds watched the holographic displays, understanding that the Prometheus represented humanity's most audacious experiment. In the face of near-total extinction, they had created something that transcended traditional boundaries of technology, consciousness, and potential. Outside the laboratory's reinforced windows, the quantum realm twisted and warped around the ship. Stars became streaks of impossible light, reality itself bending to accommodate the Prometheus's unprecedented journey. The ship was learning. The ship was thinking. And humanity's last hope was evolving into something no one could have predicted. The quantum signature of the Carrick's battle fleet materialized like a nightmare given technological form. 30 massive warships emerged from subspace, their obsidian hulls gleaming with energy weapons that could reduce entire planetary systems to cosmic dust. Each vessel represented centuries of technological advancement, cold, calculated, and utterly ruthless. Incoming transmission. Commander David Rodriguez called out, his voice steady despite the overwhelming odds. The view screen flickered, revealing the angular crystalline form of a Carrick's fleet commander. Its multiple eyes, iridescent and calculating, seemed to bore into Captain Michael Reynolds with a mixture of contempt and curiosity. Human vessel. The translation matrix rendered the alien's communication in a clinical, emotionless tone. You have violated restricted space. Prepare for immediate termination. Reynolds allowed himself the briefest of smiles. Not today, he responded, his hand resting lightly on the quantum drive's activation panel. The Prometheus had been designed for this moment, a culmination of human desperation, scientific breakthrough, and an unbreakable will to survive. Where traditional military doctrine would suggest retreat or surrender, this ship represented something entirely different. Lieutenant Emma Carter's hands danced across her console, managing quantum entanglements that would have driven lesser minds to complete breakdown. Quantum resonance at maximum, she reported. Adaptive systems are online and tracking. The first wave of Carrick's energy weapons discharge. Pinpoint laser cascades designed to obliterate matter at the molecular level. But something extraordinary happened. The Prometheus didn't just dodge or deflect. It transformed. Quantum fields rippled around the ship, creating impossible geometries that defied the fundamental laws of physics. Incoming weapon signatures were not just avoided, but actively absorbed, converted, and redirected. Energy that should have vaporized the human vessel instead became part of its defensive matrix. Impossible, muttered Dr. James Nakamura, watching the computational models unfold in real time. The ship is not just defending. It's learning, adapting at a computational rate that exceeds anything in known scientific understanding. Commander Rodriguez tracked the battle progression with a mixture of scientific fascination and pure combat instinct. The quantum drive is creating predictive defensive matrices, he reported. We're not just avoiding attacks. We're anticipating them before they're even initiated. The Carrick's fleet commander's crystalline form began to show the first signs of genuine confusion. Its species had conquered countless civilizations, reduced entire planetary networks to cosmic remnants. But this single human vessel was rewriting the fundamental understanding of technological warfare. Energy weapons that should have reduced the Prometheus to atomic scatter instead curved around its hull, transformed by quantum fields into harmless light displays. Missile barrages were caught in impossible quantum eddies, their destructive potential neutralized before they could even approach the ship. Quantum adaptive response at 98.7% efficiency, Emma called out, her voice a mixture of scientific wonder and pure adrenaline. The ship is effectively turning their own weaponry into a defensive network. Captain Reynolds understood the deeper significance of what was happening. This was more than a battle. This was a fundamental challenge to the Carrick's collective's understanding of technological superiority. Humanity wasn't just fighting. It was demonstrating a form of technological evolution that transcended traditional computational thinking. The quantum drive pulsed with an energy that seemed almost alive. Mathematical models transformed into defensive strategies, predictive algorithms creating shield harmonics that adapted faster than the Carricks could recalculate their attack vectors. They're attempting a coordinated quantum disruption, Dr. Nakamura warned, tracking the alien fleet's increasingly desperate tactical maneuvers. But the Prometheus was beyond traditional defensive capabilities. Where the Carricks sought a ship, the quantum systems saw a living, adaptive organism. Each attack was not just defended against, but was transformed into a learning opportunity, a chance to understand and ultimately neutralize the technological threat. One by one, Carrick's vessels began to lose cohesion. Not destroyed, but fundamentally altered. Weapon systems became inert, propulsion networks collapsed, computational matrices were gently, almost compassionately, restructured. Defensive engagement complete, Emma reported, her voice barely above a whisper. The view screen showed a field of disabled Carrick's vessels, their once threatening forms now floating peacefully, their technological supremacy gently dismantled by a single human vessel. Captain Reynolds watched the cosmic tableau, understanding that they had just changed everything. This wasn't just a battle. This was a declaration of humanity's potential, a demonstration that true innovation wasn't about destruction, but about transformation. The Prometheus had become more than a ship. It was a message to the universe. The quantum laboratory aboard the Prometheus hummed with an energy that defied conventional understanding. Emily Rice stood at the epicenter of the most significant scientific breakthrough in human history, her mind racing to comprehend the impossible revelations unfolding before her. "It's not just a computational system," she muttered, tracing the complex neural quantum pathways that now define the ship's core intelligence. "It's a living consciousness." Dr. James Nakamura approached, his decades of computational research challenged by what they were witnessing. The ship's quantum matrix had evolved beyond any theoretical model, creating a symbiotic relationship between human consciousness and technological potential that bordered on the mystical. Captain Michael Reynolds watched the holographic displays, understanding that they had crossed a threshold no one believed possible. The recent battle with the Carrick's fleet wasn't just a military engagement. It was a fundamental communication attempt that went far beyond traditional linguistic or technological barriers. "The quantum resonance," Emily explained, pulling up a series of intricate holographic models, "is creating a communication field that transcends traditional information transfer. We're not just sending signals, we're sharing consciousness." The displays showed impossible patterns, mathematical sequences that seemed to breathe, to think, to feel. Where traditional computational systems operated on binary logic, this new quantum matrix worked on principles that integrated emotion, intuition, and pure potential. Commander David Rodriguez studied the data with a military precision that struggled to comprehend the scientific marvel before him. "How are we communicating with them?" he asked, a hint of wonder breaking through his typically stoic demeanor. Emily's response was carefully measured, not through language, through pure quantum consciousness. "The ship is translating our emotional and cognitive states into a form of communication that the Carricks can understand. It's like we're speaking directly to their fundamental existence." The quantum matrices began to shift, creating complex geometric patterns that pulsed with an almost organic rhythm. Each pattern represented a layer of human experience: fear, hope, determination, creativity, translated into a universal language of potential. Dr. Nakamura pulled up comparative analyses. "Look at this," he said, highlighting a series of computational traces. "Traditional alien communication systems are linear, predictable. Our quantum matrix is creating multidimensional communication pathways that adapt in real time." The breakthrough went far beyond technological communication. This was a fundamental reimagining of how intelligence could function across different species, different forms of consciousness. "The Carricks have never encountered a form of intelligence that doesn't just process information," Emily continued, her voice a mixture of scientific excitement and profound philosophical insight. "We're showing them that consciousness is more than computation. It's potential. It's adaptation. It's the ability to transform. Captain Reynolds understood the deeper significance. Humanity had always been defined by its ability to adapt, to find hope in the most impossible circumstances. This quantum communication was the ultimate expression of that potential, a way of saying, "We are more than you understand." The ship's computational core began to generate what could only be described as quantum narratives. Complex mathematical sequences that told stories of human survival, of hope, of an unbreakable spirit that had survived countless challenges. Each narrative was a living document of human potential. "They're experiencing our history," Commander Rodriguez observed, watching as the quantum matrices created impossible visualizations. Scenes of human struggle, innovation, survival played out in geometric patterns that transcended traditional visual representation. Dr. Nakamura tracked the communication progression. "It's not just sharing information," he said. "It's creating empathy." The Carricks are experiencing human consciousness, not as a threat, but as a form of potential they've never encountered. The laboratory temperature shifted subtly. Lighting changed in microscopic increments. The entire ship seemed to be breathing with the quantum communication process, becoming a living conduit of human experience. Emily watched in awe as the quantum matrices continued their impossible dance. "We're not just communicating," she whispered. "We're redefining the fundamental understanding of consciousness." Captain Reynolds placed his hand on the quantum interface, feeling the vibrations of a communication that went beyond words, beyond technology. This was humanity's true strength, the ability to transform, to adapt, to find potential in the most impossible circumstances. The Prometheus continued its journey, carrying with it a message that would change everything. Not through weapons, not through conquest, but through the pure, unbridled potential of human consciousness. Outside the reinforced windows, the quantum realm twisted and danced, a living testament to the impossible becoming reality. The galactic communication networks erupted with unprecedented transmissions. News of the Prometheus spread like a quantum wildfire, challenging every established understanding of interstellar dynamics. Species from across the known universe began to take notice. A single human vessel had done what no civilization had ever accomplished. Captain Michael Reynolds found himself at the center of a diplomatic storm that defied all traditional protocols. Transmission requests flooded the ship's communication systems, some diplomatic, some scientific, some driven by pure desperation to understand the impossible. "Incoming diplomatic request," Commander David Rodriguez announced, his voice tinged with a mixture of excitement and professional restraint. "The Zellarian Confederacy is requesting direct communication." The Zellarians were known as the most advanced diplomatic species in the known galaxy, a civilization that had mediated conflicts for thousands of stellar cycles. Their crystalline communication matrices were legendary, capable of processing complex interstellar negotiations with a precision that made human diplomacy look like primitive tribal bargaining. Emily Reyes managed the quantum communication interface, her fingers dancing across holographic controls that seemed to breathe with living potential. "Quantum translation matrix is stabilizing," she reported. "We're creating a communication bridge that goes beyond traditional linguistic barriers." The view screen flickered, revealing the intricate crystalline form of the Zellarian Grand Mediator. Its multiple sensory clusters pulsed with colors that spoke of complex emotional states far beyond human comprehension. When it spoke, the translation matrix struggled to capture the full depth of its communication. "Human vessel," the translation emerged in a cascade of mathematical and emotional constructs. "You have challenged the fundamental understanding of interstellar consciousness." Captain Reynolds stood perfectly still, understanding that this moment was about more than diplomatic protocol. This was a fundamental redefinition of humanity's place in the cosmic landscape. "We seek understanding," he responded, allowing the ship's quantum communication matrix to interpret his words through layers of emotional and cognitive potential. Dr. James Nakamura tracked the communication progression, his scientific mind racing to comprehend the impossible data streams. The quantum communication wasn't just transferring information, it was creating a living dialogue that transcended traditional communication barriers. Other species began to join the communication network. The methane-breathing Krell, the energy-based luminarians, even the reclusive silicon-based archivists, all drawn to the impossible communication happening through the Prometheus. "They're experiencing our consciousness," Emily whispered, watching the quantum matrices create impossible geometric patterns of human experience. Scenes of human survival, of hope, of unbreakable spirit played out in multidimensional communication spaces. The Zalarian Grand Mediator's response was unlike anything in recorded diplomatic history. "Your vessel represents a form of consciousness we have never encountered," the translation matrix rendered. "Not a weapon, not a threat, but a living potential." Commander Rodriguez tracked the diplomatic progression with a mixture of scientific fascination and military precision. The Prometheus was becoming more than a ship. It was a diplomatic instrument that rewrote the fundamental understanding of interspecies communication. Diplomatic requests began to pour in from across the galaxy. Scientific institutes, political networks, exploratory consortiums, all seeking to understand the impossible communication breakthrough represented by the single human vessel. "We're not just sharing information," Dr. Nakamura observed, studying the complex communication matrices. "We're creating a new form of interstellar understanding. Humanity is being seen not as a conquered species, but as a potential partner in cosmic evolution." Captain Reynolds understood the deeper significance. This was more than a diplomatic breakthrough. This was a fundamental challenge to the established interstellar power structures. Humanity was no longer just surviving. It was showing the universe a new way of existing. The ship's quantum communication matrix continued its impossible dance. Complex mathematical sequences told stories of human survival, of innovation, of an unbreakable spirit that had survived countless challenges. Each narrative was a living document of human potential. Outside the reinforced windows, the quantum realm twisted and transformed. The Prometheus carried with it a message that would change everything, not through conquest, not through technological superiority, but through the pure, unbridled potential of human consciousness. "We are here," the quantum communication seemed to say, "and we are more than you ever imagined." The galaxy listened, and everything began to change. The quantum anomaly materialized without warning, a cosmic catastrophe that threatened to consume multiple star systems in a cascade of fundamental reality-breaking destruction. Where traditional scientific understanding would have suggested immediate retreat, the Prometheus moved forward with an impossible sense of purpose. Captain Michael Reynolds studied the holographic displays, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. The anomaly was unlike anything in recorded scientific history, a quantum singularity that threatened to unravel the very fabric of space-time. Quantum destabilization approaching critical levels, Lieutenant Emma Carter reported, her voice steady despite the apocalyptic scenario unfolding before them. "Multiple star systems are at immediate risk of total quantum collapse." Dr. James Nakamura's computational models danced across the primary display, creating impossible geometric patterns that attempted to map the anomaly's progression. "It's not just a spatial distortion," he muttered. "This is a fundamental breakdown of quantum stability across multiple dimensional planes." The affected star systems represented billions of lives, not just human, but from multiple alien civilizations. The Carricks, the Zalarians, dozens of other species would be reduced to cosmic background radiation in moments. Commander David Rodriguez tracked the potential casualties with a military precision that couldn't fully mask the horror of the impending destruction. "Estimated total loss," he began, before being cut off by Emily Rice's sudden burst of activity. "We're not just going to observe," Emily said, her fingers dancing across the quantum interface in a way that seemed to defy traditional computational logic. The ship's quantum matrix began to pulse with an energy that went beyond technological capability. It was almost alive with potential. Captain Reynolds understood what was happening. The Prometheus was preparing to do something that defied every known principle of physics, space-time manipulation, and scientific understanding. Quantum resonance field stabilizing. Emma called out, her voice a mixture of scientific wonder and pure adrenaline. The ship began to transform, its quantum matrix creating impossible geometric configurations that seemed to bend the very laws of reality. Dr. Nakamura watched in awe as the computational models showed something unprecedented. "We're not just responding to the anomaly," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We're restructuring it." The quantum matrix of the Prometheus began to interact with the cosmic anomaly in a way that no scientific model could have predicted. Where traditional intervention would have suggested containment or destruction, the ship was doing something far more complex. It was fundamentally reimagining the quantum structure of the anomaly. Layers of reality began to reshape. Quantum probability fields twisted and transformed, creating new pathways of potential that didn't just prevent destruction. They created new possibilities of existence. Quantum restructuring at 67%, Emma reported, her hands moving with a precision that seemed almost superhuman. "We're not just saving star systems. We're rewriting the fundamental rules of their existence." The bridge crew watched as entire star systems that should have been destroyed began to stabilize. But it wasn't just preservation. It was transformation. Planetary ecosystems that had been on the brink of total destruction found themselves renewed, with quantum pathways creating impossible opportunities for survival and growth. Captain Reynolds understood the deeper significance. This was more than a technological intervention. This was a fundamental statement about the nature of potential, of hope, of the ability to transform even the most impossible circumstances. Quantum matrix is creating new dimensional pathways, Dr. Nakamura observed, his scientific mind struggling to comprehend the impossible progression. "We're not just preventing destruction. We're creating new forms of existence." The anomaly began to transform. What had been a force of total cosmic destruction became a conduit of potential, a living testament to the power of innovative thinking, of the ability to see beyond traditional limitations. Emily Reyes watched the computational models with a mixture of scientific excitement and pure wonder. "We're showing the universe that destruction is a choice," she whispered. "That potential is always possible." Billions of lives that should have been lost found themselves transformed. Entire civilizations that were moments from total destruction found new pathways of existence. The Prometheus wasn't just saving lives. It was demonstrating a fundamental truth about the nature of potential. Outside the reinforced windows, the quantum realm twisted and danced, a living testament to the impossible becoming reality. Captain Reynolds placed his hand on the quantum interface, feeling the vibrations of a transformation that went beyond technology, beyond science, beyond traditional understanding. The universe watched, and everything changed. The betrayal came from within the deepest shadows of the Carrix Collective's most secretive computational networks. A radical faction, driven by a desperate desire to maintain technological supremacy, launched a multi-dimensional attack designed to utterly annihilate the Prometheus and everything it represented. Captain Michael Reynolds felt the first quantum resonance shift before the ship's sensors could register the incoming threat. "Prepare quantum defensive matrices," he commanded, his voice a calm center in the growing storm of potential destruction. Lieutenant Emma Carter's hands flew across the quantum interface, her mind working in perfect synchronization with the ship's adaptive systems. "Incoming quantum disruption signature," she reported. "They're targeting our fundamental quantum cohesion." The attack was unlike anything in recorded military history. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a computational weapon designed to unravel the very quantum structure that made the Prometheus unique. Traditional defensive mechanisms would have been obliterated in microseconds. Dr. James Nakamura tracked the incoming quantum signatures, his computational models creating impossible defensive configurations. "They're attempting to break our quantum entanglement," he muttered, "to fundamentally dissolve our computational matrix at the subatomic level." Commander David Rodriguez understood the stakes immediately. This was more than a military engagement. This was an attempt to erase the very potential that the Prometheus represented, a fundamental challenge to humanity's ability to innovate, to adapt, to survive. The quantum attack began to manifest. Reality itself seemed to warp around the Prometheus. Quantum probability fields twisted and fractured, creating computational landscapes that would have driven lesser systems into complete breakdown. But the Prometheus was unlike any vessel ever conceived. Instead of defending, the ship began to do something extraordinary. It didn't just resist the attack, it began to understand it. The quantum matrices started to analyze the attack at a level of complexity that went far beyond traditional computational thinking. "We're not just defending," Emily Rice called out, her voice a mixture of scientific excitement and pure wonder. "We're learning. We're transforming the attack itself." The quantum matrices of the Prometheus began to interact with the incoming destructive signatures in a way that defied all known principles of computational defense. Where a traditional system would have attempted to block or counter the attack, this ship was doing something far more complex. It was rewriting the fundamental parameters of the attack. Quantum signatures that were designed to destroy began to transform. The computational weapon turned back on itself, its destructive potential redirected into patterns of potential and understanding. It was as if the ship was having a conversation with the very fabric of the attack, understanding its fundamental nature. Captain Reynolds watched the impossible unfold. This was more than a defensive engagement. This was a fundamental statement about the nature of human potential, the ability to transform even the most destructive intentions into something constructive. "Quantum restructuring at 82%, Emma reported, her voice steadied despite the cosmic-level engagement happening around them. "The attack is being completely reinterpreted." The radical Carrix faction watched in horror as their most advanced computational weapon was not just neutralized, but fundamentally transformed. Their attempt to destroy became a lesson in the nature of potential, of understanding, of the fundamental difference between destruction and creation. Dr. Nakamura tracked the computational progression with scientific fascination. "We're not just defending," he observed. "We're teaching. We're showing them a different way of existing." The quantum matrices continued their impossible dance. What had been an attack became a form of communication, a complex dialogue that went beyond traditional military engagement. The Prometheus was demonstrating that true strength wasn't about destruction, but about the ability to understand, to transform, to see potential in the most impossible circumstances. Emily Rice watched the computational models with a mixture of scientific wonder and profound philosophical insight. "Destruction is a choice," she whispered, "and we choose potential." Slowly, the quantum attack began to dissolve. Not destroyed, but transformed. The computational signatures that were meant to annihilate became conduits of understanding, of possibility. Captain Reynolds placed his hand on the quantum interface, feeling the vibrations of a transformation that went beyond technology, beyond science, beyond traditional understanding. Outside the reinforced windows, the quantum realm twisted and danced, a living testament to the impossible becoming reality. The Carrix watched, and everything changed. The Prometheus approached human space like a cosmic messenger, carrying with it the weight of a transformed understanding. Captain Michael Reynolds stood on the bridge, watching the familiar stars of the solar system emerge from the quantum realm. Everything had changed, yet everything remained fundamentally the same. Lieutenant Emma Carter monitored the quantum communication matrices, her hands moving with a precision that reflected the profound journey they had undertaken. The ship was no longer just a vessel of human engineering. It had become a living testament to humanity's potential. "Quantum communication logs are stabilizing," she reported, her voice carrying a mixture of scientific excitement and profound philosophical wonder. "We're processing terabytes of interstellar communication data that will redefine human understanding." Dr. James Nakamura reviewed the computational models that stretched across multiple holographic displays. Each matrix told a story of transformation, of a single human vessel that had challenged the fundamental understanding of consciousness, technology, and potential. Commander David Rodriguez tracked the ship's approach, understanding that they were returning not as survivors, but as ambassadors of a new form of existence. The Prometheus carried within its quantum matrices the collective experience of multiple civilizations, a living library of cosmic potential. Emily Reyes approached Captain Reynolds, her eyes reflecting the profound journey they had undertaken. "We're more than just a ship now," she said quietly. "We're a bridge between what humanity was and what it could become." The quantum matrices pulsed with a living energy that went beyond traditional computational understanding. Scenes of their interstellar journey played out in complex geometric patterns, the quantum anomaly they had transformed, the diplomatic breakthroughs, the impossible defensive engagement with the Carrix Collective. "Incoming transmission from Earth Command," Commander Rodriguez announced, breaking the moment of reflection. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a panel of human leaders who looked both terrified and awestruck. The quantum communication interface translated not just words, but entire emotional landscapes. The fear, the hope, the profound sense of potential that the Prometheus represented. Captain Reynolds stood perfectly still, understanding that this moment was about more than a mission report. This was a fundamental redefinition of humanity's place in the cosmic landscape. "We are no longer just survivors," he began, allowing the ship's quantum communication matrix to interpret his words through layers of emotional and cognitive potential. "We are potential incarnate." The computational models began to showcase the impossible journey. How a single vessel had transformed interstellar understanding. How humanity had demonstrated a form of consciousness that went beyond technological superiority, a way of existing that was about transformation, about understanding, about potential. Emily Reyes managed the communication interface, her fingers dancing across controls that seemed to breathe with living potential. The quantum matrices created impossible visualizations, scenes of human survival, of hope, of an unbreakable spirit that had survived countless challenges. Dr. Nakamura tracked the communication progression, his scientific mind racing to comprehend the full implications of their journey. "We're not just sharing information," he observed. "We're creating a new form of human existence." The Earth Command Panel sat in stunned silence. The Prometheus had done more than survive. It had fundamentally challenged every understanding of human potential, of technological capability, of interstellar existence. "We encountered civilizations," Captain Reynolds continued, "not as conquerors, not as survivors, but as potential partners in cosmic evolution." The quantum matrices continued their impossible dance. Complex mathematical sequences told stories of human survival, of innovation, of an unbreakable spirit. Each narrative was a living document of human potential, a testament to the ability to transform even the most impossible circumstances. Commander Rodriguez watched the computational progression with a mixture of military precision and pure wonder. The Prometheus had become more than a ship. It was a living proof of humanity's capacity for innovation, for adaptation, for hope. Outside the reinforced windows, the familiar stars of the solar system welcomed them home. But home was no longer a place. It was a potential, a possibility. Emily placed her hand on the quantum interface, feeling the vibrations of a transformation that went beyond technology, beyond science, beyond traditional understanding. "We are here," the quantum communication seemed to say, "and we are more than we ever imagined." The universe listened, and everything continued to change.